So, Jane, you had a number of things you wanted to talk about, or you had some questions about what my thinking was on certain areas?
Well, I have some things I'd like you to talk about in the context of what you've already said about your worldview and your person. But I'd like to hear what you have to say about specific subjects that have intrigued and annoyed and stimulated us for quite a while. The extraterrestrial visitations, alien abductions.
Let's stop there for a second. That's a
one
big.
that you like, or you want to.
They're kind of linked together. That in terms of the extraterrestrial visitations, one of the kind of maxims I've had as an investigator, and I'm not a professional investigator, just somebody who's curious about life, like I always was as a kid and I am today, is that anything is possible. You can't have a worldview such as the one that I hold about we being the products of a dreaming that is eternal and goes on forever and is completely unknowable, and not think that anything is possible. And I mean simply anything is possible. But what we really want to get to is the point of what is probable. And we want to also think in a good scientific way, without getting scientific about it, but one of the axioms that they usually bring up is the simplest explanation of an event is the best. It may not be always true, but it's one that most human beings agree on. If we can explain it simply, it's better than some convoluted explanation. It's a kind of prejudice we have towards the simplicity of things, because simplicity has a beauty to it and has a truth to it that holds us. So when we get to extraterrestrial visitations, be they UFO sightings, light sightings, whatever we want to think, landings, we see craft, we don't see craft, there are really three possibilities. One is that these are the craft of our own civilizations, that there is something hidden, there are some secret aircraft basically that have been sent up and which are moving around. I think that's true in some cases. I think that's probable. I think in other cases it's not. That it is probable, hard to say, that they are visitations from another place in the universe. It's possible. But the third area that is never brought up, and which is probably the most probable, outside of the things about the military, is that these are unconscious visitations. They're visions from the unconscious. We have become so conscious that we don't even know anything about the conscious world. You speak to a lot of people and you ask them if they've read the work of Carl Jung, who in fact investigated the unconscious, that is the part of ourselves we can't control, the part that dreams at night when we're asleep, okay? The part that seems to know things that we couldn't possibly know since we're bounded in a world of space and time. How could it know the future? Or how could it know that something is going to happen to somebody? There have been very accurate predictions from time to time, The unconscious can produce powerful visions, and a vision is not an hallucination. People who have seen these craft close up, usually as lights, is all they see is lights at this stage of the game, which is an indication that it may be a vision, because they take very, very elementary shapes, either circles, oblong egg shapes, or triangles, pyramid kind of thing. These are all very, very kind of basic shapes. That the unconscious, or the source of the visions, that part of the dreaming that is beyond our control, that is beneath the level of consciousness, is not a world of space and time. It doesn't have people like us in it walking around and we get here from 8:30 to 9:30, then we go to this. It's a world of intelligence, feelings, I guess is the best way you can, that's what I feel. And that when that world of intelligent feelings presses against the membrane of consciousness, human consciousness, it takes a certain form. If it wants to tell us that there's something happening to us as humans that is on a large scale, we're not talking about individual lives, but on a large scale. If we were living 4,000 years ago, that particular feeling might take the shape in our consciousness of a bear or an antelope or a bear that radiates or something like that, some kind of animal. 1,000 years ago, which is a highly religious time, that in fact those same feelings that something is happening to us as a human race might take the form of an angel. We can see them all in the Bible, for example. They come forth, and or even as God appears, as a light. I think what's happening is that some part of these extraterrestrial visitations, which we see as lights, which have an effect on us, people who have been affected by them, especially people who have been abducted, so to speak, because they are connected, experience something that is profound. And one of the things that you experience when you experience a vision is you experience an overwhelmingly sense of truth. That what is being shown to you, what is being spoken to you, what you are seeing is from a higher order of intelligence. I don't care what the vision is. I've had visions, and I know they're different from hallucinations, which are really rearrangements of consciousness. They don't have that sense of high intelligence that comes with them, and they don't have a sense of knowing. That visions may be horrifying. I haven't had any like that, but they are always, let's put it this way, that they take your attention, and they are as real as this world that we are living in. But we know that it's not of this world. We know it's a visitation. Something in us tells us. So even seeing craft that have certain kind of definite size, it can happen in groups too. You can look at visions, and two of the two great religious visions that were communal in nature were the Fatima visitations and Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico, where many people at those particular visions saw them as well as the main participants. So the psychic world that in fact the other world normally visits us on a one-for-one basis, but it can also reach us as groups. And the way that we interpret what it's trying to communicate to us, since it can't communicate in worlds of time and space, will depend on the time and space that we live in. And if we're in a world that doesn't believe in God, and if we're in a world that in fact does not believe in any spiritual beings, then the only way that it can make presence or can make sense of something that seems of a higher order of intelligence coming to communicate to us that something is important for us to understand, we would take them as people from outer space. So what I'm saying to you is that all of the range of possibilities are probable. And I would rank them as this. The majority of them, especially the abductions, are psychic events. They are visions emerging from the unconscious to communicate something to us. And we know this by following people who had multiple abductions. It has all the characteristics of a visitation from the unconscious, from a vision. And I can go into that at some later time, but it has those characteristics. We just know that it does. And then the second most likely is that it's some large portion of them, or something is being done here. Those are the ones that we never get to go into, that don't come to grab us and bring us in. We just see them as lights going on. And the third is there's a possibility that we are being visited by other civilizations. If Einstein is right about time and space, then these people must have, or these beings must not live by those rules, or in fact must have started out hundreds of thousands of years ago to visit us. So I see that as the least probable, but it is possible, and then followed by some type of military scientific venture. And then most of them, I think, are simply psychic events. And if you aren't aware of what those events can be and what their power, then you should do some reading. You should read something about Carl Jung. You should read some of his books, and you should start to take a look at that, because that is the way that our deepest part of ourselves, the soul, whatever you want to call it, you don't have to be religious to believe in the soul, you know. Plato believed in it. He was not a Catholic. he was Plato, you know. That was our essential self. So that's the way that it communicates with us. That's what Socrates hears as his daemon speaking to him, saying, do this, don't do that, you know. So in a sense, it can take a variety of forms, and the form it's taking, I believe now, is of lights. The circle is a symbol for completeness. It's showing us all kinds of operations upon ourselves, which is, in a way, it's a reflection of what we're doing to the world of nature itself, to our world. You know, we're just tearing it apart, basically. So this is the way that, but there's also a sense from many abductions is that there's something happening. There's a change coming, which we know from the various prophecies. And in fact, I'm a believer in prophecies, but I also know that the time element of prophecies is very suspect. I don't care whether it's 2012 or whatever it happens to be. The psychic world, the other world, has a very strange sense of space and time. It's like all over the place, which you can tell from our dreams, you know. It's just crazy. So that I think that there is something that's occurring, and I think it's what everybody has been thinking for some time. There's a change in consciousness coming. The age of Aquarius has been on us for some time, or in fact we're about to enter it. But about every 2,000 years in the galactic cycle, there seems to be a change in consciousness that occurs. We don't know why, but this is that period in time now. In fact, I think it's occurring, and in fact many people do too. And I think that it's going to lead to not a more super logical, rational human consciousness, but one that is more balanced by intuition. I think that's where we have to go, because we're basically living very shallow lives, and if we want to be fully human, we have to return to that part of us that is both conscious and unconscious. That's who we are as human beings, you know. There are two halves of us, and we're living all in one half, and we've lost our complete spiritual values on the other half, and it's occurring. It's a rebalancing of who we are. Just as the age of Pisces was a rebalancing by bringing forth the time of Jesus, which completely changed the way that people treated one another, and another 2,000 years back to the emergence of writing, which completely changed the nature of knowing. So something is occurring. It occurs over a long period of time. There are many people come to announce it. It's slow, takes place, and eventually the great river of the middle of a culture begins to absorb it, and we begin to act out that new consciousness, and our consciousness will change very, very slowly. So that's my take on the extraterrestrial, lights, visitations, rockets, abductions, things like that, just very briefly anyway, but I'll go into that maybe at some stage a little bit later.
Mhm.